college visits, standardized testing, the application triangle of doom, the Common App and Naviance procedures, letters of recommendation, and financial aid and scholarships. All right. Now, housekeeping stuff. Number one, everybody should be signed up for the Remind app. The Remind app is something that I think would help you guys just kind of keep time with what's going on throughout the application season. So if you have not signed up for the app or for the Remind app, I would say you can do it right now. Text 81010, and this is what you would be texting there. We're not trying to spam you or anything like that. We're sending out, maybe like a message a day right now as far as like upcoming stuff, but that will definitely settle down within the next couple of weeks, and then, by like say February, March, you might not get any messages, but right now we're just trying to keep you on point as far as the whole kind of process goes. Okay. Transcripts, very important. Transcripts are going to be uploaded into Naviance by this Wednesday. So by this Wednesday, your transcript that has your rank and your GPA on it will be in Naviance. All right, and I'll show you where to look, but that's going to be important because when you are applying to colleges, they're going to want to know what your rank and what your GPA is. That's where you guys are going to be able to find it, is in Naviance. All right. After that, financial aid night is going to be. I'll pass those on at the end.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I already passed them out.
All right. Well, clearly I was more focused on what I was saying than what Mr. John was doing, which I suppose is appropriate, but they're out, so good. All right, so financial aid night is going to be on the 27th, which is this Thursday. So this Thursday, that's an important night. Come on out. It's open to you guys and your parents. It might be the type of thing where you say, "Oh, mom and dad, you guys head along." Well, guys, think about it. You're in this together, all right? If they're even though they might be paying for it, it's good for you guys to know kind of the mechanics of how all this is going to happen. So, smart idea for you guys to come in addition to your parents, all right? SAT, ACT registration stuff. We'll get to that a little while later, and I think that's about it. All right, now. Diving in, at this point, everybody should have, I would think, a pretty solid list of schools that they're interested in, schools that they might want to apply to. If you don't, it's not absolutely time to hit the panic button yet, but you're kind of close, all right? What you should be doing is trying to research colleges as thoroughly as you possibly can. There are several ways to do that, several websites out there to do that. The first one I would start with is the Naviance website. I like the Naviance layout because every single school has kind of a standardized layout, all right? That allows you to sort of sift through what is going to be found on some of the college websites and look at kind of a standardized layout. So that's something that I think is kind of helpful. College Board and Princeton Review also have helpful search engines, and then College Scorecard is a government website that I think is particularly helpful. It shows also kind of a stripped down layout for each of the schools, but it shows what is their 6-year graduation rate, what is their 4-year graduation rate. All of that stuff is important to know, all right, well, if I go to this school, what are some of my chances potentially of graduating on time, and how many students actually graduate? So that's important as far as some of the information that gives out, all right? Like I said, gather as much information as you can. Talk to people who are around you. Every single teacher in this building has, at a minimum, a bachelor's degree, and most likely they have a master's degree. Talk to your parents, talk to your friends' parents, talk to older siblings, older friends, all that kind of stuff can be helpful to find out what their experience was with not only the college application process, but with also the actual kind of college experience. Now, just remember, with any sort of user review that's out there, though, one person's experience might not be predictive as to what another person's experience might be. So, your friend might be going to Canisius, they might love it. Doesn't necessarily mean that Canisius is going to be the right choice for you. It might be, all right, and the reverse could be true. A student might hate school X, but you might love school X. So just kind of keep that in mind. All you're trying to do is gather as much information as you can so that you're able to make an informed decision. Now, when you're looking at the school's websites, like I said, I usually like to start by looking at these sort of aggregate sites first, and then you dive in to the college's individual website, all right? And once you do that, of course, you're going to be met when you go to their website with slick marketing, pictures of a multicultural group of students sitting on some steps in front of a beautiful brick building with ivy-covered walls, and it's this, yes, this is what college is supposed to be for some people, of course, but that's not really what it's all about. If you're going there for academics, try and look through the fancy slick marketing and look for what are some of the academic programs that they have. You're going to want to do that by going to courses or academics or the school's course catalog. Those are that's the place where you're going to find the bulk of the information about the school. Now, let's keep in mind, the average college student changes majors a couple of times. So yes, it's important to look at the major that you are looking at, but keep in mind you might be changing majors somewhere along the way. So try and look at, all right, what are the important facets of their overall academic experience? What is their core? A lot of schools have kind of, I would say, three sort of classifications for the types of classes you might be taking. You're going to have core classes, which is just kind of like here, it's sort of different packaging, but just like here, you got to take 4 English, 4 social studies, 3 math, 3 science, that sort of thing. At the college, you're going to be taking, they might term it something different, but you know, instead of a math class, you have to take 2 critical thinking classes, or whatever it might be, okay? So they've got their core classes that everybody needs to take some variation of. Then they've got the major classes that everybody needs to take in that given major, and then elective classes that are just sort of free classes that you can take whatever you want. All right, with the major classes, try and look at what is unique to that school in terms of that major. All right, because for most, say, biology programs, you're going to be taking Bio 1, Bio 2 as a freshman, Chem 1, Chem 2 as a freshman, Calc 1, Calc 2 as a freshman. That's going to be the same across almost any college biology program, all right? But look a little bit deeper and see, you know, are there research opportunities at that school? Are there study abroad opportunities at that school if that's something that you're interested in? So look not only at the course catalog, but all the academic stuff that's there, because that's what you're going to be doing is primarily, we hope, academics at the school, okay? Let's see, have I caught up with everything here? Oh, yeah, the other thing, you guys have got to have an open and honest conversation with your parents about the college process. That's something that's really, really important. You guys might have this picture of what college is going to be in your head for you, and that's awesome. That is great. But does that mesh with your parents, what they're thinking, all right? And if it doesn't, that might be okay. Again, I like to think of this almost like buying a car. What you guys might want in a car and what your parents might want in a car for you are 2 very different things sometimes. And you'll probably, I don't want to necessarily say meet in the middle, they probably have a little more sway over this, but you've got to be happy going to that college for 2 to 4 years, and your parents have got to be happy with their money going to that college for 2 or 4 years. So have a conversation about what you want out of school, what they want out of school, and you know, try and go from there. This can be a very stressful process, as I'm sure you're probably already learning about it, right? Your parents are probably on you right now. They're probably putting some pressure on you, and rightfully so. They want to make sure that this is done right. We understand, guys, you only go through this once. One time you guys apply to college, that's it. And your parents, unless they've had some other sons or daughters go through this is their first time doing this in a while. And again, even if they have had some of your older siblings go through it, your process is going to be a little bit unique to what theirs is, okay? So I understand there's a lot of pressure and anxiety. What we usually recommend to stem that or manage that a little bit is have a weekly meeting with your parents. Weekly meeting, you can do it on Sundays, you can do it on, you know, whatever is going to be good for you guys. Have a weekly meeting and sort of pack everything into that 30 minutes or whatever it is. Give them, here's what I'm doing this week, here are my plans, have a conversation, talk about that kind of stuff, but then once that meeting's over, it doesn't have to be that constant thing looming over the top of every interaction that you guys have with them. Again, they want this to go well for you, you want it to go well, but make sure you've got that open line of communication, and we think that sort of a weekly meeting can help that. Okay? Oh, wait, last thing. How many schools should you apply to? This sort of goes back to what I started to say about your process being unique. Your process is unique to everybody else. So, you know, is it possible that you could apply to one school and have that be totally appropriate for you? Yeah, it totally could be appropriate for you, all right? What we always say is you need to have at least one school that you can both get into and that you can afford, all right? You've got, and of course, that you want to go to. So it needs to meet those 3 criteria, all right? Because there are some schools that you might be able to get into, but you might not be able to afford it, or vice versa. You might be able to afford it, but you don't know if you can get in. You got to have at least one school that meets all of those criteria, all right? And if you are, you know, sort of shooting for the moon and looking at the Harvards and the Yales of the world, and that's fine. You know that you might need to apply to more than you know, just a couple of schools. You might be looking at 10, 15 schools. Not encouraging that necessarily, but saying that might be okay and realistic. Now, if you're applying to 20, 25, maybe you need to thin things out a little bit more. That might be a little bit much, a little excessive, but for some of those heavy hitter schools, 10 to 15, I hate to say it, but it might be reasonable, okay? Depending on where you're looking and what you're trying to do, okay? The average student that we have applies from anywhere from 4 to 6 schools, if that helps you. Okay? Now, visiting. Easily the best thing that you can do to find out about a school is to get on campus. Go and learn about the school. You can sign up through a school's website for sort of visiting opportunities. The best thing to do is go to an open house if you can, because they put on a full dog and pony show for you at the open houses. You can talk to professors. They've got people there to talk with you from different clubs and organizations. It's a really good chance to sort of concentrate that college's experience into a brief couple-hour time frame. All right, if you can't go to the open house, no problem, but definitely use the admissions office as you're trying to go and visit a school. You might be looking at UB, and you've got a friend who goes to UB. Go and spend the night with them. Sure, that might be great, but that does not replace going through the admissions office. Certainly at a school like UB that is pretty large, your friend who's been there for a month and a half does not know as much as the admissions office does, especially on a school that, at a university that has so many different facets to it, so many different kind of colleges unto itself. So you definitely want to use the admissions office. Now, that doesn't mean that everything that happens on the admissions office tour is going to be exactly what you need to know, okay? You might want to branch out a little bit, because think about it. Their job is to get you interested and invested in their school, and that's a good thing. They're selling you their school, and they have a lot of good things in their mind that they want to sell you on. However, some of it could be potentially the world through rose-colored glasses. They're never going to tell you to lie or anything like that, but you might want to, in the cafeteria or in the dining hall, reach out to somebody who's there who's not strategically positioned on the tour and say, what's the food really like? Or maybe you could say, what really goes on here on the weekends? Or how accessible are professors? That kind of stuff. Branch out just a little bit. Look at the school's student newspaper. I'm sure it's published online. Read up on that a little bit. It's going to give you the flavor for what the campus is really like. The admissions offices do a great job, but you want to try and gain a little bit more information about the school if you can. Once you have done all that and you're leaving campus and you're in the car, have the conversation with your mom or your dad about what did you think, what did they think, and then as soon as you can, write everything down, type it into a note on your phone, whatever you do, but write it all down, because after you go to a couple of colleges, things start to blend together a little bit. You want to be able to make sure that you keep things straight, because that, like I said, after a few weeks of time passing, it could get a little bit tougher to remember. Okay? I think that's about it on that piece. Now, standardized testing. If you're attending a four-year school, you should absolutely take both the SAT and the ACT. I'm going to assume that most people in this room have probably already taken, hopefully both the SAT and ACT, but at least one of the two. If you have not, then you need to sign up as soon as you can for the October. Yeah, I get it confused because they're back-to-back weekends. October ACT and then November SAT are going to be offered here. And those time frames should still be good. Even for some early application schools, those dates should still be good, all right? You might want to make sure and check with the school itself, but that's not going to be too late in case you guys were worried about that, all right? So anyway, with the tests, even if you know that you're good to go to get into the school, say you want to go to UB and you've got a 1280 on your SAT, you know that's going to be good enough to get you in, you still might want to take the test again, because most schools have sort of scholarship tiers. So it's all based, it might be based on a 90 GPA and a 1100 gets you this scholarship, but a 92 GPA and a 1300 gets you this level scholarship. So there's different tiers. So I know that nobody is super excited about spending $50 to come in on a Saturday morning and take a 5-hour test. Totally get it, don't blame you. But that $50 and 5 hours of time, or whatever it ends up being, could end up saving you thousands of dollars in costs over the next couple of years if you do well on that test, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. What we generally recommend is whichever test that you preferred or that you did better on, felt more comfortable with, that's the one that you should take again. Because colleges will take the higher of the two scores. They've got a concordance table that says, all right, this in SAT equals this in ACT, and they're going to sort of give you the benefit of the doubt and give you the higher of the two scores, or go with the higher of the two scores when they're looking at you from an admissions perspective. Most schools also will super score SATs. They're starting to super score ACTs, some of them, but it's not totally across the board like it is with the SAT. The other thing is you need to make sure that the scores get sent directly from the testing institution to the college that you are applying, all right? So it's got to go from either College Board or ACT to the college that you are applying to. That's pretty critical. They don't come from us, all right? You can sign up for, when you sign up, you can send the scores to up to 4 schools with the price of registration. After that, it costs about $12 per school to send it to each of those schools. Now, there are some schools that are starting to do what they call self-reported scores, and that's good. That's a benefit to you guys. What that means basically is you can put down, here's what I got on the SAT in the Common App, and the school will just take that at your word, and then they'll just sort of need verification once you have decided to enroll in that school. You send them to that individual school. So instead of sending scores to 15 schools, you only need to end up sending scores to the one that you end up applying to. Now, again, that's something called self-reported scores. That's not across the board. So be sure to check to see with your school how they want them, what they need to, what they're requiring, basically. All right. Most likely, you're going to have to send them officially from the testing agency, but there might be a few that will allow the self-reporting, and you can kind of hold off on sending them if that's the case. All right. I hope I didn't make that overly complicated. All right. I think that's about it. Yeah. Just know if tests are not your thing, there are what are we at? Yeah, like 950 schools that are either test optional or test flexible, something there. All right. You guys are more than a number. All right. There's no question about that. The SAT and ACT certainly play a role in the admissions process, but it is not, live or die by the SAT at all schools. Some of them, sure, it might have an outsized role, but at a lot of schools, what they're certainly going to look at what you do in the classroom on a daily basis. That really, at almost all schools, does outweigh the SAT and ACT. The most important factor in getting into the school is which classes you take and how well you do with them. All right? Now, you can't really change any of that now, but just know that if you're not a great test taker, there are test optional options out there for you to kind of mitigate some of that SAT hit if you have it. All right? Okay, application triangle of doom. All right? Why doom? Well, right here. Okay, it's a joke. We know it's important, but take a deep breath here, guys. We're showing this because we want you to see kind of how things get from you and from us to the college. This is where everything needs to go, is obviously the college. Once they receive one bit of information about you, they set up a digital folder, and every subsequent piece of information goes right into that digital folder. And sometimes it comes from you, sometimes it comes from us. And the way that happens basically is, like I said, SAT and ACT goes from you to the college because you are requesting SAT or ACT to send it to them. Right? The other piece for you is going to go from you to the college, and that's going to be the school's application. All right. Some schools will use the common application. Some schools will use the SUNY application. Some schools use their own specific application. Like Canisius has their own online application. All right. So it's going to be up to you, and we'll talk more about that in a minute as far as which application to use. But all of that is stuff that goes from you to the college. Then there's stuff that goes from us to the college on your behalf. Those are, like, say, the transcript and the letters of recommendation. That's all the stuff that's going to come from us, along with, say, like a school report. There's a couple other things that we might be sending. All right. Now, you're going to use, like I said, Common App to do it, and we're going to use Naviance to do it. There's really not too much of a difference. It's just sort of delivery method. You guys, we could compare it to, you guys are using FedEx and we're using UPS. That's really the only difference, I guess I would say, is it's just a different delivery method. Right? So you're going to ask the teacher for the recommendation. The teacher is then going to upload it into Naviance, and then we're going to submit it on their behalf. All right, so we're actually sending the teacher's letter of recommendation for them. They're just uploading it in Naviance. That's how that piece works, okay? Then in Naviance, what you guys need to do is sort of open up the pathway for us to be able to send stuff for you. All right, and that just sort of makes some sense. We shouldn't be able to blindly send your information to any school we want to, because that doesn't make sense. So you guys are essentially telling us where to send it, and you can do that in Naviance. That kind of opens up this pathway, and then we're able to send stuff on your behalf. Okay. Now, Common App. Like I had said, there's a couple of different ways to apply, and the Common App might end up being the methods that you go with, but it shouldn't necessarily be the default method. All right. If you're applying to say Niagara and then 3 SUNY schools, it might be easier for you to do the SUNY application and then Niagara's own application. The Common App, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's also not the easiest thing. It can be a little bit of a bear at times. So my suggestion is look at where you're applying, and from there try and decide what the best and easiest application method is going to be. If it's, you know, maybe you're applying to 3 private schools and 2 SUNY schools, well, that maybe tips the scales in the direction of the Common App. If you have questions about what's going to be the best method, then maybe talk to your counselor. But on the whole, you know, try and think it through before you totally decide to go with the Common App. Now, on our websites, we've got this guide that is the college-wise guide to the Common Application. I actually, for a few years, did a guide to the Common App. It was maybe about like 15 or 20 kind of screenshot type pages, and it was a lot of work to do, and frankly, this is better. This is a very, very thorough, and there's a lot of good information there. We link to it on our website. You can download it. It's 65 pages of Common App. I don't know, you could say goodness or awfulness. You'd probably be right with whichever description you went with, okay? But it really is pretty helpful. It's not something that you're going to sit around and read in the evening, all right? But it is a reference where there's a table of contents. You're going to say, oh, I'm doing this. I have a question about it. Then you go to that specific section in the guide, all right? Okay, I usually like to start by saying, I usually like to advise you guys to start by filling out the demographic information. That'll take the edge off of it. It's stuff that you guys know, all right? I hope certainly know your name, your address, all those kinds of things. Do all that, and then kind of click around the site, and you'll get a feel for what it looks like and what you're supposed to do with that. Okay. Once you do all that, you're going to feel a little more comfortable doing it. This is what the Common App looks like right here. Once you've logged in, all right, there's a couple of tabs at the top, Common App, My Colleges, all that kind of stuff, okay? And you're just gonna go through and try and get green check marks across the board, okay? I think that's about it on that piece. Okay. Now, like I had said, Naviance is the method that we're going to be using to submit your application materials on your behalf, at least our portion of the application. All right. Now, in order to do that, like I had said, you need to sort of do something that allows us to send stuff for you. And in Common App, that means matching. Okay. So you're going to need to match in. You're going to need to match in Naviance before we can send anything for you. And the way to do that is you need to have a couple of things done in Common App first. So in Common App, you need to do this FERPA waiver. All right, that's something that you need to do. And then you also need to do the education section right here. You've got to have that completed, and then you need to have at least one college added in the My Colleges section. If you do all that, then you should be able to match. Common App will kind of let you match with through Naviance if you've got all that done. So where to do that in Naviance, this is what it looks like in Naviance when you log in. And you're going to go to colleges I'm applying to, and right here, you'll match accounts right here at the top. You're going to type in your email address that you used for Common App along with your date of birth, and then you're just going to click match accounts. All right, that's really about it. What that does is it just sort of opens up the pathway for us to send stuff for you. Now, if you are not using Common App, say you're just using the SUNY application, then what you're going to have to do is use this little plus button to add the different colleges in that you are applying to. All right, with Common App, by matching, it just sort of pre-populates everything here, but if you're not using Common App and just using SUNY App, which again, totally fine, you need to manually enter all the schools that you're applying to using this plus button. All right? I hope that makes some sense. Guys, if you have questions at any point, I probably should have started by saying that, but please stop me. I want to make sure that this is relevant to what you guys need, okay? All right. Okay, so that's something that you're going to do in Naviance. Oh, the other thing that you're going to do is you're going to invite teachers for letters of recommendation. You can do that down here. All right, pretty simplistic, fairly straightforward. Click Add Request. You're going to select the teacher. Of course, you're going to select Mr. Jowett because. All right. Then you're going to click on all current and future colleges. That just makes it much easier. You don't need to specify which college should be, which teacher should be doing which college, that kind of thing. We'll sort that out with you on our end. Okay. Then what I would say is type in a little note to the teacher. Number one, you're going to be thanking them, but number two, maybe write down why you chose them. What was it about them? What was it about the experience you had with them, their class, that kind of thing. It just kind of makes good sense to go over that. All right, we'll talk about college recommendations in just a little bit, but this is kind of the mechanism that you're going to go about it. All right, and then I think that's about it as far as Naviance is concerned. There's one more thing. Yeah. The last thing, I should have mentioned this earlier, right when you log in, you can click here and click here. This is where your transcript is going to be posted in just a couple of days. It's going to be about me, and then my stuff, they eloquently call it, and then documents shared with me. That's where the transcript is going to be. Okay, so in a couple of days, or on Wednesday, by Wednesday afternoon, the transcript is going to be posted in Naviance, and that's where it's going to be posted. Okay? All right, so I think that's about it on this piece. There is a spot where you can request transcripts through Naviance. You don't need to do that. All right, I'll explain why in just a minute, but that's something I don't recommend that you do that. Don't request the transcript officially through Naviance. Okay. All right, so letters of recommendation. Before you guys run to 4 different teachers and say that you need a letter of recommendation, find out from the school how many letters you need, right? Because every single teacher that's going to write for you is going to spend a minimum of 1 to 2 hours of their own time writing for you. That's a pretty significant expenditure of time, and we're happy to do, most people I think are happy-ish to do it. As long as it's needed, okay? You definitely don't want to ask 5 teachers and a school will only accept 2 letters. That means there's 3 teachers that have spent their time really unnecessarily so. So make sure that you find out what the school requires as far as letters of recommendation. You want to find somebody, preferably from your junior year, maybe even your sophomore year. Freshman year is a little too far removed, but junior year, freshman, or junior year, sophomore year, who you performed well in their class and you had a pretty good relationship with them. If you got a 67 in their class, but got along great, maybe find another teacher to go with, okay?
Sure.
Yes.
And if you stopped acknowledging this teacher in the hallway 2 years ago, that's probably not a good person to. I'll sometimes have former students come by, and my first thought is you don't even say hello in the hallway. So think about, especially if you're saying you're kind of narrowing this down to a couple of choices.
Yeah. Totally agree. So with that, you need to ask them first. Ask them in person first if they can write on your behalf. That gives them an out if they've got too many letters going on, whatever. Ask them in person first, and they'll likely say yes. And at that point, you're going to say, well, what do you need from me? They might ask for your unofficial transcript. They might ask for a resume. Maybe they have a form that you fill out, that sort of thing. You want to obviously give that to them, and then once they've agreed, you can go into Naviance and do what I just showed you guys you can do, okay? Now, with the letters of recommendation, just so that you know, this is kind of an important little tip to make sure you guys aren't freaking out at any point. It'll say requested once you request the teacher, all right? And once you request them, it'll say requested. Then they upload it. Once they've uploaded it, it's gonna say in progress, all right? It's not gonna say sent because they don't send it. Remember, we're the ones, counselors are the ones that send the letters of recommendation. So if it says in progress, then you know, yes, the teacher's done their job, they're all set, okay? If it says requested, they're still working on it, all right? But it's not gonna say sent or delivered or whatever until the counselor ends up sending things, which, you know, we'll get to how that happens in a minute. But just so that you're not hounding the teachers, if it says in progress, good, they've done what they need to do. Okay, yes?
If there were, like, if you retired like last year, would they still be on the website or?
Probably not. Yeah. Yeah, we did have, I met with a student the other day who 3 of their teachers from last year retired. It's a tough situation to be in, but, you know, talk to your counselor about maybe who would be best if that teacher's not available, if that retiree's not available tonight. Okay? Okay, and then lastly, write a thank you note, guys. Even just, this is like common good manners 101 sort of thing. We hope your parents taught you well, but just, I'm sure they did, but still, write the thank you note. Write something out, handwritten, little note. It means a lot. It really, it does mean a lot. It's just good manners. Okay, Lucas.
What if the teacher is a notices teacher?
We can work with that. That's something that, yeah, I had somebody ask me about UB math, and can we work that out? We'll figure a way. It might not be through Naviance, but we'll figure a way to make that work. Okay, guidance office procedures. So, number 1, you guys need to meet with us as soon as you can, sometime within the next, 2-3 weeks, because like I said, your process is gonna be individual. This presentation is kind of geared towards the middle, all right? And we know that we're gonna have some people that are on opposite ends of the spectrum kind of thing. Talk to your counselor so that we can see where you're at and help you along with the process. But we need at least 2 weeks to process things before they need to go out. Now, if it's just as simple as a transcript and the teacher letter, which has already been written, we might be able to send it right that minute. But if it requires us to write a letter, and a lot of schools do require us to write letters, then we need at least 10 business days notice to be able to guarantee. Now, it might be done sooner than that, but we need at least 10 days to make sure we're able to do a good job, all right? Please don't come to us a day before something is due. We might be able to get it done, and if we do, it might not be the best letter we've ever written, but it's, we gotta do the best that we can with the time that we'll get. Okay? Yes?
I haven't been able to get on Naviance, so like, is there like specific login information?
Yes, there is. It was in the red folder that we gave you last year.
Yeah, I looked through that, I couldn't find it.
Okay, all right. Then stop down and see Mrs. Cole in the guidance office. If you guys don't have Naviance information, stop down and see Mrs. Cole in the guidance office, and we've got your usernames, passwords, and a sheet that tells you how to log in. Okay? All right? All right, I think I hit almost everything on here. Yeah, looks like I've got everything on here. So again, we keep pretty good records. We keep very good records as to what was sent and when and all that kind of stuff. And we thought that with the rise of online applications and everything being electronic instead of snail mail, we were going to eliminate the idea of, hey, something crossed in the mail and you get all nervous about it, and it hasn't really happened. Sometimes there still will be occasions where you might apply to a college on a Sunday night, and then Monday come in and tell us to send a transcript. We send a transcript on, say, Wednesday. By Wednesday morning or Thursday morning or whatever, the college is sending you a notification saying, hey, we don't have all of your materials. And you might say, well, I met with my counselor yesterday, how do we not? Well, things sometimes still cross in cyberspace, or sometimes the college hasn't uploaded all of the information from Naviance yet. All of those little things can happen. It doesn't mean that the college is trying to, all they're trying to do is make sure that your application is complete. That's what they want. They want to make sure that your application is complete. So they're sending sometimes gentle nudges and gentle reminders, but if you've met with us and you get one of those notifications, come back and talk to us. It might be as simple as, oh, you know what, things kind of crossed in cyberspace. That's probably what it is. But before you freak out, come in and see us. We'll be able to straighten it out. Okay? All right. So, guys, we have been through this process, like I had said, many, many times. You guys, one time. That's it. You get one time. You guys still have to do the heavy lifting. You've got to climb the mountain, okay? But we are the guides along the way. We're going to be the ones that, at least I hope, can tell you, here are the pitfalls. Avoid this. Oh, no, you need to do this. This is going to be more appropriate for you, all right? So that's kind of the direction that we're going with this. Make sure that you are asking us questions along the way. ask us questions over email, that's totally fine. Don't email us to say, hey, please send my transcripts wherever. We don't take emails like that. We need to meet with you in person in order to send your stuff out, in order to send your credentials out. Now, that's not because we want to make life infinitely harder for you. It might be a little bit of an inconvenience, but you would be surprised at how many little errors or things we catch by meeting with you. That's the whole reason why, is we want to meet with you to make sure that everything gets to where it needs to appropriately, okay? So again, look at us as your Sherpas along the way, okay? Financial aid and scholarships, I had already mentioned this earlier, that there is the financial aid night on Thursday night. I think it would be smart for all of you guys to attend. Work on the college applications generally, I think, before you get started on the scholarships. It could be something you do in parallel, but first things first, get the applications done for the most part, all right? Then after that, the essay. I want everybody to take like a minute and a half and read this. Just read this right now.
Two. Yep.
Okay, the college essay is the last thing that you guys really have control over. There's nothing you can do about your GPA. There's not too much that you can do about your SAT or ACT score. You can do a lot with the college essay, all right? What they say in the admissions world sometimes is a good essay can heal the sick, but it can't raise the dead. All right, what that means basically is if you are real close and you're on the fence, a good essay, that can be the nudge to put you over the top. But if you are far, far away from admission, then the essay is not going to make too much of a difference. Again, they're looking at like 6 screens of information on you. The only thing that really makes you jump out and kind of come to life is your essay. I've had some students in the past where I've said, hey, can I look at your essay? And they've kind of sheepishly said, oh, it's not great. I'd rather not. What are you talking about? I know you. You want to send that essay to an admissions person who doesn't know you at all, and you're going to be satisfied with that, but you don't want me to look at it? Because you're, no. Definitely take the time, write a good essay, all right? And I know that there might be lots and lots of supplements that are out there. If you're applying to a bunch of schools, do the best job that you can, all right? Now, that doesn't mean obsess with this and spend, 40 hours per essay, but don't spend 20 minutes, all right? You want to make sure that you write a good essay, all right? You can kind of divide some of these essays into Check Plus, which is, the admissions officer, kind of nudges the person next to him and says, you got to read this is really good. Or Check, which means, all right, they wrote an essay, they're literate. Check minus, maybe they're not so literate, okay? But that's what you got to do with the essay. Last thing, just good luck and see your counselor ASAP, guys. Thanks very much. If you have questions, please feel free to stop by and see us.